You too shall be my puppet.
Whatever you say there, Puppet Master. This is Olizandri bringing you stage 2 in my playthrough of Castlevania Harmony of Despair. Now, in the remaining 5 vids, I'm going to give you a character breakdown in each one of them, starting off with Shanoa, so you know more about what the characters play as and what they do. This is the character I'm going to be playing with through all the playthrough, by the way. Now, ability 1, stealing spells. While holding up on the D-pad, she shows off this tattoo on her back, which has the ability to steal spells from certain enemies in the game. One being the Ghost here, and later on green skeletons from stage 4 onwards. They give you a total of 4 spells, so she's one of the characters with the least amount of abilities you have to choose from. So you can have all 4 of her spells equipped at once. There's never any real choice you can have in the matter. Now, the ghost enemy up above gives you 3 of the 4 spells, though in different levels they'll have different spells for you to steal. The first of which is Ignis, which was stolen above. That's the triple fireball. Unfortunately, she starts with it as default, so you don't actually need to steal it at all. But part of the function of the spell steal is it works as a silence on the monster as well. So if you steal the spell from a monster, it can no longer use it throughout that entire level. So you can either just walk past a neutered enemy, or in the case of the green skeletons, they can't attack at all. They have nothing to rely on other than walking into you, but they choose to walk away from you, so you can just melee them. Have your take your time killing them after you silence them. You can protect your allies that way as well, by tying down the spell and disabling them from being hit. Now the other spells are this ice bolt that you can use, which travels a very long range in a straight line. Now for any long corridors or anything, it's very good for sniping your enemies, or for, of course, any enemies that are weak to ice. Also there's the lightning spell, which I'm using here, very good against armoured enemies, because of course lightning will do double damage against them. And it also has this homing feature, so earlier on in the game it is the standout damage ability that gives Shanoa a lot of punch early on. So it hits twice, sometimes it can hit once depending on if it connects or not. The only problem with the homing ability is sometimes it will home towards some enemies that you don't want and end up just being completely useless. So you've just got to make sure you use it in the right places. The last spell is Nitresco, stolen from the green skeletons. This enables you to, well, it's a purple beam that they use that enables you also to use your weapon attacks during the cast. So as soon as you've activated the spell, it will continue hitting for 3 hits. And you can also melee at the same time, so it's very good on stationary targets. If you get up close and personal, use that spell and start meleeing at the same time, you do a lot more damage than you would with other spells, weaknesses aside. So, talking about her melee ability, with the rapier glyph, I got a tip for that, but I'm going to have to give you that in a little bit, because Shanoa's coming to one of her main gameplay bits called the Magnus glyph. This enables her to reach shortcuts or chests high up or stuff like that, and get to areas faster than the other characters by slingshotting herself, as you saw, up towers or across chasms that other people just cannot cross. So I'm already at the boss area now because of it, and I'm going to be opening up doors to the boss and doors to the lower areas so people can climb up to this area. However, the structure of this stage, 3 people spawn at the top left and 3 people spawn at the bottom right. The people at the bottom right will come up the bottom way and will come up through the door I've just opened. The guys on the top will go around a long path to reach a lever that will open a door that separates. You'll see me just standing at the door later on in the video, waiting for it to open so I can get some food. So they have to travel a long way to open this lever, so they can get back round and, well, basically come through to the boss. Or they can go through this fire puzzle, which requires someone from underneath to hold a button, and they go through this flaming chamber, just like pressing buttons to allow each one of them through. So, you know, this game's got its slight puzzle elements despite being a multiplayer, more arcadey. Now, about Shanoa's weaponry. She has 3 obtainable weapons. She starts off with the rapier glyph. Now, a little tip with that. is you want to roll between the Y and the X button, because if you just attack normally with the X button or whatnot, you just end up with single slashes that aren't slow. If you roll between the Y and the X, because it comes from different hands and the glyph is basically comes from the palm of her hand, she can do a quick 2-hit combo. So that increases her damage, and I haven't seen too many people use it so far, so that's a little bit of a tip. Now, leveling up Shanoa is the same as leveling up Jonathan. Each character levels up in different ways, some through equipment, some through stealing spells, some through the way that Shanoa levels up, which is to use her abilities as much as possible, which is why I'm foregoing a melee most of the time and just zapping as much as possible. Because as the spells level up, of course, they get more powerful. There's an experience bar that tracks with 8 levels for each spell. I don't know if the spells change form at any point. Maybe at level 8, I haven't got to that. But they look to stay the same. Just their damage value increases all the time. And also as the spells level up, so does her melee attack. So it's the way of getting her attack power up. Now weapons don't necessarily do that, but her base attack damage is done entirely through leveling her spells. There's another character that does this Jonathan Morris. I'll talk about him later on, where his sub-weapons increase his attack power. As you see, the doors open now. We're going to be moving down to the boss in a second. After everyone meets up, I'm going to do a bit of a warp. So I want to explain the boss's abilities. Now, throughout this level, you'll have seen several Iron Maidens that we just take the time to jump over all the time. You'll see one to my left now, and we'll be jumping over it. If you walk into it on hard mode, it is instant death. You will die instantly. If you walk into it on normal mode, it's about 120 damage, which isn't that bad. To engage in the boss now. So these Iron Maidens are part of the major boss mechanic, which is, he won't do it in this video sadly, because we absolutely nuked him down with a fire sword and fireballs and whatnot. But he will grab a puppet and he will go to put the puppet in one of these caskets to his left or his right. And if he manages to drop it in, you've all got to go and attack it basically. You all need to be as one. If he puts it in, one of your characters will get teleported into the Iron Maiden and he will die. And it becomes a knock-on effect that as people die, you won't have enough damage or firepower to kill the puppet. So everyone, it just knock-on effect, die, die, die. His other ability is Cursed Bolts that he fires from his mouth, which if they hit you, they do damage of course, but they also drain your mana or ability points, whatever you want to call them. And stop you from regenerating them for a little while, so you can no longer use your abilities, which for a caster of course it just neuters their abilities entirely, just down to melee attacks, so it's not very good. As you see, the boss is moving across the map. The boss, after a certain amount of damage, will move across the map to another Iron Maiden and attempt to kill people there. You've generally got to be ahead of the boss, but the way the boss travelled in this video, he travelled to the furthest point, allowing us to just completely mow the guy down. So, a little tip by the way for the boss: if you end up struggling, if someone's died early or 2 people or whatnot, you can try to make the boss last a bit longer and hopefully force him to move. If you send skeletons into the casket he's putting the puppets in, you will lose time, but you can try and buy time in a sense, keeping the people who deal damage alive. So, that's stage 2. Stage 3 tomorrow. See ya.